Back in the early 1990s, a war was fought. But this wasn't a war with armies or tanks. Nope. This one was fought with attitude, with aggressive marketing, and with, 16-bit processors. It was a battle for the living room, a conflict that would literally define a generation and change the video game industry forever. So how did this whole thing even happen?
For millions of us, it all came down to a simple choice, but one that felt absolutely monumental. Who was your guy? On one side, you had the hero we all knew, the plumber who'd already saved the princess, and, let's be honest, the entire industry. And on the other side, you had the new challenger, a blue hedgehog with incredible speed, spikes, and just this undeniable edge. Believe me, your choice of heroes said a lot about who you were.
All right, so to really get this war, you first have to understand the kingdom. See, after the great video game crash of 1983 almost wiped out the entire market, Nintendo didn't just rebuild it with the NES, they basically became the market. And the scale of their dominance was just staggering. I mean, look at this. By 1990, they controlled an insane 90% of the US market, and they ruled that kingdom with an iron fist. They used their seal of quality and super restrictive licensing deals to pretty much starve any competitors, like Sega's first console, the Master System, of any games. But a challenger was gearing up for a counterattack. Sega, who was already a big deal in the arcades, was ready to take the fight to the home with their new console, the Sega Genesis. And they brought in this new American CEO, Tom Kalinske, who basically decided, you know what, we're gonna stop playing by Nintendo's rules and just start a whole new game. And here was Kalinsky's brilliant insight. He realized it was pointless to fight Nintendo for the little kids. Instead, he decided to target their older siblings. His goal was to make video games cool, edgy, something you aspired to own, not just another toy. He wanted to fundamentally change who video games were even for. So Kalinske laid out this simple but totally radical 4-point plan. First, he slashed the price of the Genesis. Second, he launched the super aggressive in-your-face marketing campaign. Third, he started building relationships with American developers like Electronic Arts. And fourth, and this was the masterstroke, he replaced the pack-in game with their brand new mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog. This slogan? This was an open declaration of war. Sega's ads directly attacked Nintendo. They made up terms like blast processing, just to emphasize the Genesis's speed, and they capped off their commercials with that iconic screaming, Sega. They weren't just selling a console anymore, they were selling an entire identity. And the craziest part? It worked. Oh boy, did it work. By 1992, Sega had done the impossible. They had captured 55% of the 16-bit market share in the United States, completely dethroning the king and turning a monopoly into a dead-even dogfight. So now, with the market split right down the middle, both sides were desperate for an edge. The competition escalated like you wouldn't believe. It moved beyond mascots and slogans to a much more controversial battleground: content. And this phase of the war, it would spill out of kids' bedrooms and right into the halls of the US Congress. The big turning point was the home release of the arcade smash hit Mortal Kombat. Nintendo, being fiercely protective of its family-friendly image, censored the game. They famously replaced all the red blood with gray sweat. Seriously. Sega, on the other hand, kept all the gore, just hiding it behind a secret code that, let's be real, every single kid on the playground knew. The results were, well, a fatality for Nintendo's strategy. The Genesis version of Mortal Kombat outsold the Super Nintendo version 5-1. It was the definitive proof that the market was growing up and wanted more adult-oriented stuff. Sega had read the room perfectly. But all this success came with a hefty price tag. The violence in games like Mortal Kombat, and especially this controversial Sega CD title called Night Trap, ignited a full-blown moral panic. This led to actual US Senate hearings where Nintendo and Sega just pointed fingers at each other, blaming the other for corrupting America's youth. It was wild. And the outcome of those hearings is something you still see on every single game box today: the ESRB. You know, those little letters, E for everyone, T for teen, M for mature. To avoid the government stepping in, the industry was basically forced to create its own rating system. It's one of the biggest, most lasting legacies of the entire console war. So, while Nintendo and Sega were locked in this all-consuming battle, trying to destroy each other, they made a critical mistake. They took their eyes off the ball and completely ignored a new player entering the arena. A player that, in a crazy twist of fate, they had actually created themselves. Okay, get this. Back in the late 80s, Nintendo had partnered with Sony to create a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo. But in this legendary move of corporate arrogance, Nintendo publicly betrayed Sony at the 1991 Consumer Electronics Show, announcing a new partnership with Philips instead. Sony was humiliated and furious, so they decided to take their prototype and turn it into its own console, the PlayStation. The stage was now set for this epic showdown at the very first E3 in 1995. Sega was up first. They announced a surprise early launch for their new console, the Saturn. Tom Kalinske took the stage, and he revealed the price, $399. Oof, it was a high price, and that surprise launch really angered retailers who were totally left out of the loop. In one move, Sega had stumbled, and their new rival was just about to pounce. A little bit later, Sony's executive Steve Race walked up to the podium. And his speech is now the stuff of legend, because it was one of the shortest and most effective in gaming history. He just said one thing. $299? The crowd went absolutely nuts. With that one single number, Sony delivered a knockout blow. That $100 price difference, combined with Sega's own mistakes, just crippled the Saturn in North America before it ever even had a chance.
And the PlayStation just dominated. Its cheaper CDs made games way easier and less expensive to produce, and that attracted key developers like Square, who moved their blockbuster Final Fantasy series from Nintendo over to Sony. The war between Sega and Nintendo was officially over, and it turns out they had both lost to a brand new king. So what did it all mean in the end? Well, Sega would eventually leave the console business altogether in 2001, but the DNA of that fiery, intense rivalry is imprinted on the entire industry we see today. I mean, think about it. The war gave us the ESRB ratings, it proved that games could be a massive market for adults, not just kids, it normalized the kind of aggressive marketing we still see today, and maybe most importantly, it broke a monopoly and created the competitive, multi-platform landscape that has really allowed gaming to flourish. This brutal, fascinating, and sometimes ridiculous war completely transformed video games. It literally took them from the toy aisle and put them smack in the center of the entertainment world. It turned a niche hobby into the multi-billion-dollar cultural force that it is today. You see, that rivalry of the 90s, it set a precedent. The battlefield has changed, sure, and the players are different, but that fight for your time and for your money is more intense than it has ever been. Which kind of makes you wonder, who's really winning the console war now?